Hey guys, this is Adwukta, ADWCTA, and we are doing a review of the Grand Tournament cards that were released in the last couple days. So this is following the Warrior Riot, and if you haven't watched it, you should probably watch it. But you don't need to. We can just go on with this. One thing that when I was making the Warrior Riot video, I did notice is that there is a way better way to present this. Look how good this is. This is way better. So we're just gonna adopt this format and get a little preview of the Dread Steed right here. But we're gonna adopt this format from now on, and everything should look a little cleaner. It's pretty late in the night right now, and I'm a little worn out from the hashtag Arena Warrior Matters video. So this won't be a very upbeat review, but we'll get to all the cards. I think the first thing that we should do is talk about the one warrior card that was revealed, Alexstrasza's Champion. Now, it's a 2/3 for 2 mana, which is pretty good. It's like we have those cards like a River Croc at a 52 right now. And if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and charge. The problem is, how often are you really holding a dragon on turn 2 to actually play it on turn 2, which is great, by the way, 3/3 with charge. It's not that often. The Twilight Whelp is not a great card because of that very reason. Otherwise, a 1 mana zombie chow that doesn't have a downside would be amazing. Now, later on, you can definitely get value out of this, which is more than a 2/3, and that's a very good thing for this card to have, because 2/3s are generally pretty useless to be played in the late game. So it's not going to be that great. I don't see it as a 60 as a card, unless there's all of a sudden all of these dragons out there. But just the consistency of getting a dragon is pretty low still. So it's definitely a good card, but it's not game-changing, right? Even if it were a common, it would not be game-changing for the warrior. But what is game-changing is the frickin' Druid. We already have so many good Druid cards that have been revealed so far. Like 2-drops, like the Denarius, multiple 2-drops actually. But here's a 1-drop, and it says summon 2 1/1 saplings. I'm going to read that as the main one, because if you're playing this on turn 1, that's what you're going to be doing, and you should do it on turn 1. This is better than a 2/1 when you drop it, because it can't be pinged away and it'll deal 2 damage anyway. The only time getting 2 1/1s is worse than getting 1 2/1 is if your opponent has multiple minions and they can eat up the 1/1s while each taking less damage to spread the damage out. That's sometimes why a Razorfed Hunter, for example, would not be as good as just like a 3/3, for example, even though it actually has more stats than a 3/3. It's because a 3/3 demands to be taken care of by something with more than 3 health, if your opponent wants their thing to live. Whereas a Razorfed Hunter, if their opponent has a 3/3 and then a 2/2, it can just eat it. But on turn 1, you don't really have that problem. Your opponent is not going to have 2 minions that can eat up these things on turn 1. So this is an incredibly good turn 1 play. Now later in the game, you may not really want 2 1/1 saplings. That may not be doing all that much for you, but dealing 2 damage like a Holy Smite or an Arcane Shot is obviously also very good. So this is an insanely good card. This will be rated very, very high. I think it's debatable whether it's better than a Yeti, but we're probably going to end up putting it better than a Yeti. And I just don't know what's going to happen with the Druid when the Grand Tournament is released. All I know is it's going to be very good. Maybe it'll even be better than Rogue and Paladin. Maybe it'll even challenge Mage. Who knows? It has the ping. Now, the one card people are also kind of excited about is Flash Heal. That's a good card. I mean, not that it's a good card, but it's a card I like to see in the Priest. I don't know if you guys were ever worried about this, but I was always amazed that the Priest has no actual cards that heal things, right? You have cards that deal damage while healing yourself, you have cards that give things health, you have cards that trigger off of heals, but the only heal you ever had was your hero power, which is a really slow heal, right? 2 mana for 2 damage, that's a very slow heal. This is fast. This is also very worth it compared to like what the Paladin has, right? Like Holy Light is 2 mana for 6 health, And then what the Druid has, Healing Touch, is 3 mana for 8 health. So this is incredibly efficient by comparison. And it's definitely better than those cards. But what exactly does it do? I'm going to show another card, which is the only other card that the priest has that heals things. And this restores 4 health to all minions, and it costs 0 mana. Sure, it heals your opponent's minions too, but that's usually not a concern in the arena. Usually things are dead, or you can trade to like make sure something's dead before you use Circle of Healing. Sometimes you can't play it that way. But the idea is, it's not that good of a card in the arena. Even though it is more effective than a flash heal when it comes to being used on the board, which is what you'll usually use it for, it's still not that good. So flash heal, by analogy, will probably also not be all that good. I still like it as a card. I think it is a card that the priest really should have. But just not going to be a big arena impact. And it will dilute the priest card pool, which is good, because the priests have a little way too many good common cards. It could use a little dilution. You don't want to see those Valens coming up all the time. So I like the design of this card. And also, with between Living Root and Flash Heal, you're seeing kind of the classes go. We were worried about class convergence, right? These are definitely not convergence cards. Living Root is the deal 2 damage. Druid already has a Claw, so it doesn't invade any space that Druid didn't have before. It does give Druid a 1-drop, and Druid never had a 1-drop before, but that's fine. I don't think classes should be locked out of something as basic as like a 1-drop. Speaking of the lack of convergence and making things more unique, Warhorse Trainer, great example. It uses the Silverhand Recruit mechanic, and the Silverhand Recruit mechanic is a wonderful, wonderful mechanic that they're starting to add in. I really like it because it is just about paladins, and it is just about making these recruits. Yeah, other people can make recruits now with that 3 mana card, but generally think of it associated with paladins. Now, is this a good card? 2/4, not a great stat distribution, right? We don't rate it all that highly. Like a Goblin Sapper, I think is rated a 42. It's definitely not that good. But, and you're probably not going to tap on turn 2 to have a 1/1 live. Like it's not a combo you should be able to rely on. So if you're playing it as a 3-drop, it's a pretty bad 3-drop, but it's playable. Where it really shines is later on. You can always tap and play a Warhorse Trainer. And if you do that, then the Warhorse Trainer actually gets its 7 stats as a normal 3-mana card would. And it has the upside of, if you manage to get multiple Silverhand Recruits down, then you'll give all of them 1 attack each. So it does have some upsides. Overall, it's a pretty average card, I think. Not going to make anyone's day, but not awful. You'll take it. It's a common card. Lance Bearer is our next card. It's not really good. It's going to be one of the worst 2-drops, actually. It's probably worse than a Murloc Tidehunter, even. Why? Because it gives a friendly minion +2 attack, which means there has to be a friendly minion on the board. So it's not really a 2-drop, right? You have to coin something out before you can use it. And if you coin something out, what are the odds the +2 attack is even going to be helpful? It has to be your 2/3 against your opponent's 2/3, and then you eat it. And then this thing leaves a 1/2 body. Like, I don't know what it's supposed to be used for. Maybe there's some way in Constructed to make it good, but it seems like a real throwaway card to me. That just, I can't see a situation in which it would become good. Definitely not in the arena. And now we're past all the common cards, and now we're going to the rare and epic cards. Charged Hammer. It's a shaman card, if you can't tell. It's kind of hard to read these designs. Death Rattle, your hero power becomes deal 2 damage. That's pretty good. Deal 2 damage. Usually it takes, like for the priest, right? They have this same spell that your hero power becomes deal 2 damage. And that costs 3 mana and doesn't do anything else. This costs 4 mana and also gives you something. So it seems like it's better than that card. But and in the meantime, you just get 2 free damage. You don't even have to use your hero power. So for 1 extra mana, you get 2 damage right off the bat. And then you continue to get this free damage that you can use. And you're a shaman. It's not like you have a lot of other weapons that compete for this slot. So it's definitely better than the priest hero power change. I think it's called Shadow something. I'm not very good with card names, but it is better than that card. But it's overall still not that good. And why is it not that good? It's because with we already know the value of a 2-attack weapon. Because Shaman has that weapon. It's a Stormforge Axe. It costs 2 mana and then 1 overload, so like 2.67 mana. This costs 4 mana, and it only adds 1 more charge. And the charge happens 4 turns later. Or 3 turns later if you use 1 every turn. So it happens way later, and it's just not anywhere near as valuable as the 4 mana would suggest. And also, if you remember Assassin's Blade, how often do you actually use all 4 charges on a weapon? Like, even if you just start hitting face on each turn. It's not that often. So to actually get this Death Rattle to trigger, it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of work. And that in and of itself makes this not a very good card. You won't actually get the Death Rattle to trigger. Astral Communion. It's a very interesting card, and its best aspect when it comes to the arena, because okay, look, discarding your card, you're never going to want to do that. Discarding your hand, you're never going to want to do that. And before 10 mana crystals, you're not going to get a chance to play this card and be able to use your mana crystals on the next turn, because you will have no cards to play it with. And it's the arena, you're not going to have like 10 mana cards or anything like that, just like hanging out in your deck for you to play. You're also not going to be guaranteed to get cards that draw cards, or to have things on the board that can draw you a card after you kill it, or all these potential combos, right, in Constructed. So it's a very worthless card. It would be like Ancestral Ancestor's Call type bad. Right, that card I think we rated a 0, maybe a 1, I forget. If not for Excess Mana. Excess Mana is the catch-all for when you're supposed to gain mana crystals as a druid, and you don't get to gain those mana crystals. So if on turn 10 or later, when you already have 10 mana crystals, you play this card, you still discard your entire hand, but you get a card back, and that's the excess mana, and you can play it. So what this means is, it situationally can cycle itself. And that would make it better than Ancestor's Call. But this is going to push... We have this kind of floor with, if a card can cycle itself, it can't be that bad. Like, it can only fall to a certain amount. Like, Call Pet is a good example of a card that's pretty much totally awful. But we can only make it so bad because it does cycle a card. And if you cycle a card, your deck is on average made up of card value 64 cards. So when you cycle a card, you're getting a 64 value card. You're making this upgrade from this like near worthless card to a 64 value card. So that's where the value of the cycling comes in. This is like a super situational cycle. So I don't know how much credit it's going to get, but it's really going to push our lower boundaries for how bad a cycling card can be. Even though you will get another card to replace it. Now, the next card is the Fist of Jaraxxus, and it fits the same pattern of just like this weird card as far as the arena is concerned. It seems like it's meant for like super combo-y things. Whenever you play or discard this, deal 4 damage to a random enemy. 4 mana, 4 damage, totally okay, right? But it's to a random enemy, so not that good. This is a Flame Cannon, which should be 2 mana. It costs 2 more mana. Definitely not that good. We're going to put it below a 50, definitely. Now, and especially because Warlock can already deal 4 damage in so many ways. No one's even like, people are sort of automatically playing around this type of effect anyway. And the real benefit to this is if you discard this card, you get to play it for free essentially. But how much like controlled discard are you really going to get in the arena, right? We'll have it have some heavy synergies, but it's not going to be a good card. And now we're going to compare Cat Purse to Pint-Sized Summoner and Darnassus Aspirant. Why? Because Cat Purse is a 2/2, which is like a Pint-Sized Summoner. And whenever you attack the enemy hero, you get a coin in your hand, which is fairly similar to a Pint-Sized Summoner if you're playing a minion, right? You get if it stays alive for 1 turn, you get an extra mana the next turn, basically. And you get a mana each turn it stays alive. So Cat Purse, you kind of have to attack into things if they taunt. So that's not as good as a Pint-Sized Summoner. You have to do it before, you have to attack first. So, for example, if you want to have like a Shattered Sun Cleric come out, like if you coin it out and you want to play a Shattered Sun Cleric the next turn, that you can't do that here. So there are some downsides compared to a Pint-Sized Summoner. But generally, it's positive, because you can bank the coin, you can hold on to it, you can use it another turn if you don't need it this turn. So I think Capris is better than a Pint-Sized Summoner, definitely. And you can also obviously use it on spells. But it's not that much better. And Pint-Sized Summoner is not really a good card. So Capris is going to be kind of an iffy card as far as the 2-drop goes. And again, Darnassus Despairing kind of blows both of them out of the water, because you gain the empty mana crystal as long as it stays alive, which has all the benefits of the cup purse, but it's a 2/3 body, and it doesn't have to attack first, so it kind of gets the best of all worlds. Just to show you how powerful of a card the Darnassus Aspirant is. I don't really understand how it can be such a powerful card and in this game, but I guess they decided that Druid didn't have enough like powerful rares. Druid has a ton of powerful epics, like Ancient of War, Ancient of Lore, but not really a ton of super powerful rares. So it may be to make up for it. And if we're going down this path, then Priest is probably going to get a really good rare, because they don't have like terribly good rares. And finally, we're going to go to the last card. So we're going through these a little fast, because I'm really tired tonight, and because these are just not terribly interesting cards. They're pretty generic kind of cards, and it makes me wonder, well, in the arena at least, right? Because they're either borderline unplayable, like the Astral Communion and Fist of Jaraxxus, even though they're super interesting, or they don't really do much. But now we come to a very interesting card, because this is a totally playable card. It's the Dreadsteed. There's no card like it. It's an infinite ping that stays on the board, and it costs 4 mana. You're never going to play it on turn 4. But you can play it after turn 4, like at turn 10 or something, and then you will always have 1 damage of ping. So if the game drags on for like 5 turns, you get your value's worth. Maybe 6 turns, because you don't get it all up at once. But as the Warlock, it's questionable whether you want the game to drag on, because at one point you can no longer tap. And on the other hand, if you play those Warlock card advantage decks, you do just kind of tap a lot, so you can get value out of this. It's not going to be a great card, right? It doesn't have very good tempo, but it's a playable card, I think. And we'll have to test it out. We'll definitely have to test it out, because we really don't know. It's also a good sacrificial pack target, for what it's worth, because it is a demon. And that does mean that it can come out of a Void Caller as well. So it gets some considerations. Like overall, I don't think it's a good card in the arena, but it's also not absolutely horrible. So that's it for us and for this card review. It's a little short for what we usually do, but I think that's a good thing here. There's just not much to talk about. We're not going to just fill up time talking about things that are not going to have huge impacts in the arena. We'll go into more overarching themes and stuff next time again, when they reveal a lot of more fun cards. But freaking Druid, they're just getting insane. This is going to be an exciting time for Druid. And remember, the Arena Warriors Matter hashtag is down below, and we're starting this. So join the movement, use it. What else? Anything else? Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, comment, share the video. Yeah, just help us out when we try to grow our audience a little. That's it for the TGT review this time, and I will probably see you at the end of the week. I think we'll put out one more video before next week starts. So maybe like Saturday or Sunday, maybe Monday. All right, see you guys.